10. Controversial capture. After a hard night of partying in 2015, a 25-year-old San Diego businessman ended up naked in a canyon where he repeatedly yelled out for someone named Josiah. The man was found high on LSD though, so there wasn't really anybody there. However, he was in a clearly agitated state as he ran through the canyon covered in sweat and scratches. Witnesses called the police about the strange behavior. At first, responding officers tried to get the situation under control by using verbal commands. They repeatedly told the man to turn around, but instead of cooperating, he clenched his fists and yelled no. An officer then sent his canine after the suspect, who subsequently fell to the ground, giving the dog an opportunity to sink its teeth into his leg. As the man tried to kick the dog away and wrestle himself free, the canine only bit down harder, and the flesh on his leg began to shred. The officer told the suspect that the dog would stop if he put his hands behind his back. But once again, he ignored the commands that were being given to him. In the meantime, the dog continued to maintain its hold on his calf, which by then was seriously injured and bleeding heavily. In the end, the canine handler ordered his dog to let go and the suspect was taken into custody. When body cam footage of the incident was released to the public, the man told KNBC that he wasn't charged with a crime. He'll never fully regain the use of the leg that was bitten, and he ended up settling with the city for $385,000. The San Diego Police Department ruled that the use of force was justified, and that the responding officers had reason to believe that the man was a threat to their safety. 9. Gator. In late 2022, 31-year-old David Halleman was wanted in Massachusetts for kidnapping and several other charges when authorities nabbed him in Brevard County, Florida, with the help of a canine named Gator. After being called to a residence in Mims, Corporal Lance Beringer sent Gator into the house to find the suspect, who was hiding beneath a pile of clothes and garbage. Gator bit Halleman in the tricep, and he was quick to surrender. In a Facebook post, Brevard County Sheriff Wayne Ivey said that the canine showed Halleman what happens when you play hide-and-seek with the Brevard County Sheriff's Office. He also claimed that the suspect was crying like a little baby. According to a probable cause affidavit, Halleman and the alleged kidnapping victim had recently ended their 3-month relationship when they got into a domestic dispute. Halleman was accused of trying to take the victim's keys, chasing her outside, and bum-rushing her into some bushes. The woman told authorities that he struck her neck and chest area several times with karate chop blows and forced her back into the residence. She tried to escape the home again during the early morning hours, but Halleman allegedly followed her outside, where he found her hiding in some bushes and dragged her back into the house. The victim suffered from road rash, along with a torn eardrum and other injuries from being strangled and hit in the head. Halleman was charged with false imprisonment, kidnapping, criminal mischief, battery, and felony battery by strangulation as a result. His case is ongoing, but he's currently being held in the Brevard County Jail while he awaits his next trial date. 8. Husky. In early 2018, undercover officers in Garden Grove, California, attempted to pull over a suspicious pickup truck being driven by a 37-year-old parolee named Antonio Padilla Jr. He was wanted on a warrant for assault with a deadly weapon on an officer and for violating his probation. He made things difficult for the officers, though, and sped off, leading police on a high-speed chase as he blew through red lights, sideswiped other vehicles, and crashed into at least 2 cars. Aerial footage of the pursuit shows the truck driving erratically on the highway shoulder and weaving between lanes in heavy traffic. After putting his own vehicle out of commission, Padilla allegedly pulled a woman out of the driver's seat of an SUV and fled in the stolen car. The SUV owner and her brother tried to stop the carjacking, but the suspect managed to get away. Luckily, neither of them were hurt in the process. The Santa Ana Police Department dispatched one of its canines, a Dutch Shepherd named Husky, who was ready to spring into action when Padilla ditched the stolen SUV and attempted to flee on foot. Husky swiftly chased the suspect down and bit him, and was widely praised for the heroic takedown. Sadly, the pup lost a lot of teeth and hurt his jaw while doing so, and he had to undergo surgery after the arrest. Padilla also received treatment for his injuries before being taken to the Orange County Jail. In the end, Padilla was sentenced to over 19 years in prison for leading authorities on the wild pursuit. 7. A Titan takedown. After receiving a call from a resident in Newport Richey, Florida, about the attempted kidnapping of a baby in 2018, Pasco County deputies wasted no time initiating a manhunt for the suspect, 24-year-old Kevin Wilson. According to law enforcement, the child's mother allowed Wilson to climb in through a second-story window, despite having a no-contact order in place against him due to a previous domestic incident. When she told him to leave, he tried to take the infant. Luckily, the victim's uncle stopped the attempted abduction by pointing a gun at the culprit, who fled the scene in his vehicle before crashing it and running off into the woods. Police tracked Wilson down with the help of a helicopter and a canine named Titan, who followed his scent and found the shirtless suspect trying to hide in the brush. In the harrowing body cam footage of the chase, a canine sergeant can be heard yelling, "Get him! Get him! Get him!" as Titan runs ahead of him and bites down on Wilson's arm. Things only became more tense as the sergeant approached the suspect with his gun drawn and shouted at him to roll over or he wouldn't take the dog off him. Titan received praise for his swift takedown, while Wilson was taken to jail on charges of neglect, interference with custody, and violating a restraining order. Unfortunately, the results of the case are unclear. 6. Trash can hideout. During a routine traffic stop in Fairfax County, Virginia in 2018, 2 suspects abandoned their vehicle and fled from the scene on foot. Police quickly caught up with the passenger, Kerry Howard Jr., but it took a little longer for them to locate the driver. With the help of a canine, they were led to a local residence where the suspect's foot was seen sticking out of an outdoor garbage can. He dove in head first in an attempt to hide from the cops, but the pursuit ended with the dog latched onto his foot. Unlike some of the other examples on today's list, officers called the dog off before having the suspect in handcuffs. They tried coaxing him out of the garbage can, ordering him to lift the lid and show his hands to prove that he wasn't holding any weapons. The driver, Kevin Allen, was soon taken into custody. He and Howard had both been arrested in connection with a traffic stop 2 weeks earlier, which they'd also tried to flee. Not surprisingly, they were hit with more charges following the second incident. Officers apologized to the homeowner, Kathy Daniel, for having to dump her garbage can out while taking Allen into custody. However, she didn't seem too bothered, and she ended up writing a thank you note to the police for handling the situation calmly and with professionalism. 5. Red's first takedown. One day in 2022, a carjacking victim was shot dead by a group of perpetrators in Volusia County, Florida. By the time law enforcement caught up with the 22-year-old Nason Bacon nearly 2 months later, they already had 2 other suspects in custody. At the time, Bacon had a warrant out for his arrest for aggravated battery with a firearm and for aggravated assault with a firearm, after learning that he'd bought an AK-47 magazine at a new Smyrna Beach gun store. Deputies began to perform surveillance in the area. They spotted Bacon sitting in a parked car and attempted to take him into custody. He fled the scene on foot and hid, prompting law enforcement to bring in one of their rookie canines named Red. In what became the dog's very first takedown, he quickly followed Bacon's scent behind a house, where he found the suspect hiding behind a washer, a dryer, and some scrap metal. Bacon was taken to the hospital with bite injuries and now faces a first-degree murder charge, on top of all the alleged crimes he was already wanted for. In the meantime, Red was praised for a job well done after having his skills put to the test. 4. Piper the Bloodhound. During a traffic stop in Los Angeles in 2022, a motorist shot a California Highway Patrol officer multiple times and fled the scene. He survived and was taken to the hospital in critical condition, and authorities immediately launched a manhunt for the suspect. 33-year-old Pejman Iraj Khosrow-Abadi. 12 hours later, they still hadn't found him, so the LAPD called one of its canines into action. However, even that didn't guarantee that the police would catch up with the alleged shooter. The longer law enforcement waits to utilize the help of a bloodhound, the greater the chances are that the dog won't be able to find the suspect. A person's scent diminishes with time, and conditions like heat and wind can weaken it even more. The more time that passes, the more likely it is that a suspect has already left the area, and that their trail will end wherever they got into a car or bus. Luckily, in this case, it took just 15 minutes for a 4-year-old bloodhound named Piper to track down the alleged shooter. The canine located Khosrow-Abadi in a tent at a homeless encampment. He was then taken into custody on suspicion of willful, deliberate, and premeditated attempted murder of a peace officer, along with an enhancement of using a firearm causing great bodily injury. Witnesses told investigators that the suspect said he was trying to take his own life by inciting a violent encounter with police. Just days after the incident, Khosrow-Abadi's family told CBS News that he's a combat veteran who's suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder ever since a deployment to Afghanistan in 2010. He's reportedly homeless and was denied benefits by the VA in recent years, suggesting that he was perhaps both mentally ill and fed up with the system. For now, he's locked up with his bail set at $10 million. If convicted, he could face up to 40 years in prison. 3. Jax the German Shepherd. After receiving a report about a stolen vehicle one day in 2022, a Marion County deputy spotted the car in Ocala, Florida, and tried to conduct a traffic stop. However, the alleged thief sped off and began driving recklessly. The deputy chased the vehicle for several miles as it blew through red lights and drove down a busy road at a high rate of speed. At some point, the out-of-control driver parked the car and attempted to flee on foot. A police canine named Jax quickly caught up with him and clamped his jaws down on the suspect's rear end. Body cam footage showed the man, later identified as 29-year-old Matthew Gebert, lying face down while Jax maintained a firm grip on his derriere. He could be heard begging the cop to get the canine off of him. The deputy told Gebert not to fight and reassured him that he'd remove Jax as soon as he got the suspect in handcuffs. Gebert was taken to jail on suspicion of driving with a suspended license, possession of drugs, possession of paraphernalia, grand theft of a motor vehicle, eluding law enforcement, resisting without violence, and violating felony probation. The case is ongoing, but Gebert is currently being held at the county jail without bond. 2. Constable Canine Max. Before sunrise one morning in 2022, a deputy in Harris County, Texas, tried to pull a car over for a routine traffic stop. The driver fled, leading police on an 8-mile, 13-kilometer chase that reached speeds of 100 miles per hour, 161 kilometers per hour. During the hot pursuit, the suspect shot an automatic handgun at deputies, who backed off and called in an air unit to help track the vehicle. The suspect eventually crashed into another automobile and flipped the stolen car. Witnesses reported seeing him flee the scene with a gun in his hand. and the air unit soon located him in a nearby forest. A police canine named Max took down the suspect and waited for deputies to reach the scene. He was also credited with finding the illegally converted automatic handgun in a ditch. 22-year-old Jiquan Mackey was taken to a hospital for dog bite wounds to his hands and genital area. After receiving treatment, he was booked into Harris County Jail on charges of attempted murder of a police officer, evading in a motor vehicle, and unauthorized use of a motor vehicle. According to jail records, he remains in custody and his case is ongoing. 1. The Jaws of Justice. 59-year-old Michael Lewis was wanted on suspicion of car theft when he hid out at a residence in Hernando County, Florida in 2021. After learning of his location, sheriff's deputies went to the address with Corporal Steve Miller and his canine. Miller announced his presence, then sent the shepherd into the house and followed behind him. When the pair reached a bedroom, Miller called out once again, giving the suspect an opportunity to surrender rather than be apprehended by force. However, when nobody answered, Justice began circling the bed excitedly. He stuck his head under the bed and someone screamed out. When Miller lifted the mattress, he saw that Justice had Lewis by the arm and had bitten him in the face. Lewis was treated at a hospital for his injuries and was then taken to the Hernando County Jail, where he was booked on charges of grand theft of a motor vehicle and resisting without violence. Would you rather be bitten in the leg by a police canine in a case of mistaken identity, or be chased by a swarm of bees after accidentally disturbing their hive? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.